You know, I was just thinking all the years of my life and all the things that I've been through, all the trials and tribulations. And I was just looking on Instagram and I was seeing some of these beautiful girls. And I was looking at some of these beautiful girls from, high school, a couple of college classes that, I had. And I had added them to Instagram at the time. And, you know, I'm still seeing their pictures and stuff like that. And some of these girls are really beautiful. What I've learned is that the older that you get and you don't get that exact woman that you want, your confidence starts to wane and it starts to fail. And it's something that can never be replaced. You can't replace real confidence with fake bravado, like you can't replace that, especially when it comes to relationship experience with women. When your whole life you always wanted to have that girl that you wanted, a certain type, a certain girl with a nice personality, a girl that can vibe with you, who understands you, who's not giving fellatio with a high ratio to every guy in every scenario. You know, having something like that in your life can just benefit you exponentially. I always wondered, how would it feel if you had that girl that you really wanted in your life? How would your life be different? Making love with her, going to the movies with her, sharing emotional experiences with her, and having just fundamental life experiences that you need to have as a young man in order to build your confidence up and build your life experience up. You know, I look at all these events that take place in our life as some type of emotional gauge. And when you go through negative experiences, your gauge goes down into the red. And when you have those positive experiences in your life, it goes up to the green. How many of us wouldn't be in this situation that we're in now if we had a good girl in our life? A girl that actually gave a damn about us. It's a curse, man. It really is not to have a girl in your life and not to have a beautiful girl that you really want. And I know some people, they pay for it or whatever, and, that's fine. And, I'm not knocking anybody for doing that. You got to get your needs met. You got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, I feel like after you're done with that, after you're done, getting sexual alleviation, there's no emotional connection. You pay her money and then you just go on about your business. And what's really sad is that millions of guys are suffering right now. Lack of intimacy, lack of emotional regulation that's healthy. But how can you have healthy emotional regulation? You're going to get addicted to video games, addicted to drugs, addicted to all types of substances because you don't have that good girl in your life. People underestimate, like the normies and the NPCs, they underestimate, you know, people, not having a girl in their life. They think that, just get your hair cut, just change clothes. Well, there's no haircut or change of clothes for your face. It's all about attraction. If a woman is not physically attracted to you, she's not going to want nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter, you get the freshest pair of suits, you get the freshest haircut, you get the best cologne. That doesn't matter because, Jeremy Meeks was in a prison cell, a prison cell. Jeremy Meeks was in a prison cell, managed to get a billionaire. like, that just, there's famous movie actors who are not even dating billionaires. There's famous basketball players and basketball stars that are not even dating billionaires. How can you be in a prison cell and get a billionaire? And it was all because of raw attraction. It was because of looks. And a lot of us, we don't have the best looks. Our looks are, it's not really, they don't really attract the women that we want, unfortunately. And that's one of the most saddest things ever. That's what I feel like this life is not fair, where you're naturally attracted to beautiful women, right? Like you don't want no Lanwell. You don't want a woman that's like a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. Even if you are sub 5, even if you're sub 7 or sub 8, you still want something that's decent looking, right? But the problem is that because of your facial bone structure, because you don't have the right genetic, you didn't have the right genetic mixture, people who created you, may not have been the most, attractive looking people, and then their offspring is not really that attractive, and you're thrown into this world where you have to fend for yourself, especially as a man, because even women that are not attractive have simps and beta orbiters. You know how many women I see that are not attractive that make ASMR videos and they still have beta orbiters on them? Like, I'm talking about women that are like plus size, like plump, you know, and they have all these beta orbiters in their comment section, talk about how beautiful they are and they love the ASMR. And of course, if you got girls that are beautiful with ASMR channels, most of them have boyfriends or are married or they're engaged. Yet people are buying super chats for them. People are sending them money, and these girls don't really need that money, you know, they don't, because most of the time they're probably with some Chad or Tyrone has a lot of money, and some of these girls have like 9 to 5s, maybe they're nurses, or maybe they're doing YouTube full time, but yet the simps don't care. They still make these girls' lives extravagant, and these girls don't give a damn. They may or may not make a video. Those ASMR name videos where they're like, oh, leave your name in the description. You leave your name in the description and then she never calls your name. Like, that's brutal. But guys fall for that all the time. And yet that same guy is giving her like $300, $400 a month. And they wonder why, if that guy ever sends her, his picture, she's going to ignore him. Think about all the times in your life, if you would have got that girl that you truly wanted, how that would have boosted your confidence. And ultimately, it would have raised your accomplishments. You see, confidence comes from positive accomplishments. You're not going to have that many accomplishments in life if you don't have confidence. And confidence comes from positive experiences. You have to have positive experiences in life, because if you don't, those negative experiences shape your mind. When you keep constantly having negative experiences, especially when it comes to females, everywhere you go, every single day, you walk to a place and girls are frowning at you, it's brutal. Absolutely. And these are the things that can help, break your mind down. Like, when you have like all these combinations of things that just break your mind slowly but surely, it picks at your mind, it picks at your confidence. And then eventually you just want to kneel all day. You don't even want to leave your room. And people call you lazy, or you don't want to work, you don't want to get a job. And these same people who work these jobs are broke. They're just as broke as you. They go to work every day, they do all that, and they don't have anything going on for their lives. Like, they settle for the 9 to 5. You want to be an entrepreneur. You want to, have your own company, have your own business. You want to do something that stands out. But the way this life is designed, without any connections, and how this Loosh farm works, is that it's going to put you through hell and torturous events in your life on purpose, because, the Loosh needs Lucian. The Demiurge and his archons and his evil minions, they got to make you go through hell. And and one thing I noticed is that when you're already in a position of like financial devastation, there's like some type of energetic current, meaning that when you're already going through it because you don't got enough money, you got to go to this 9 to 5, you got to pay this, you got to do that, and your job drains you. You don't have any strength to do anything else. Meanwhile, Chad and Tyrone, they're making beats online. They got a YouTube channel that's popping off where they're getting like $5,000, $10,000 a month off YouTube or something like that. So they don't got regular 9 to 5. So they're traveling around the world, or they got some type of remote job. They're some type of coder or something like that. They're in IT or something like that, or some cool job like that. Because usually Chad and Tyrone, they do whatever the hell they want. Even if it's, they'll have some system set up with the AI fucking, does the coding for them, or whatever. Meanwhile, you're sitting there trying to learn how to code, learn how to do this, and try to go the fair way and try to get this girl, and she just ignores you anyway, because it's never about, your coding experience, what kind of job you have. It's all about your looks. And that's a hard pill to swallow, And when I was younger, I didn't want to believe it, When I was, blue pilled, red pilled, or whatever you want to call it, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that life is all about your looks and your looks determine everything. But due to my skin color configuration, I learned early that certain people get treated a certain way based on how they look. And people that benefit from you being treated a bad way don't want the system to change. Because why would anybody want a system to change when they're benefiting from it, right? Isn't that common human sense? When something's benefiting people, they don't want it to change. So when women are getting benefits of all these simps and all these people that they would never talk to in real life, because most of these guys who simp for these women online, these girls will see these guys in real life and ignore them. You know, not too long ago, I was at this place or whatever, and this woman was jogging. She had to be young. She was like maybe like 23, 24. She was jogging with her dog or whatever. She had like these sky blue booty shorts on, like a gray tank top, Nike shoes and all that, had her hair in like a ponytail. Beautiful, beautiful, a beautiful Aryan specimen, I must say. You know what I mean? Golden hair and the emerald green eyes, all that. I'm like, wow. So as she's running past me, I'm like, hello, just a simple hello. And, she looks at me, frowns, and it's like totally just ignores me and keeps going. And that moment showed me like, man, after everything you done been through, after all the things you have to endure and still endure in the future, life doesn't throw you no bones, man. You still get disrespected. You still get rejected, and you still get isolated and thrown into this box. This matrix that we find ourselves in is quite unfair. It's not fair for regular guys to just go years without having a good girl in their life. That's not normal. That's abnormal. That does something to your mind, and it does something to your confidence. As a man, especially as a young man, when you're in the prime of your life, you're in the zenith of your life, you're in the pinnacle of your life. And in the pinnacle of your life, you can't get an attractive female to engage in sexual alleviation with. That hurts on a spiritual level, on a mental level, on a psychological level. It hurts on every single level, and this devil on your shoulders, this rebellious spirit that doesn't allow you to be happy. But then have you noticed that certain guys have everything that you dreamed of? They got the car, they got the girl, they got the career that you can only imagine. They have freedom in their life. They can get fellatio with the high ratio anytime that they choose. They have everything that you can only dream and imagine. Yet people will still blame you for your quote-unquote faults and failures. This is why I believe everything in life is pretty much predetermined, I think there's some type of predestiny going on, because there's certain spirits and there's certain things that we don't know. We can't take into account. Like, you can try to do the right thing in life and still fail. Meanwhile, some people will do the wrong things in life and win. How many stories have you heard like a rapper? Oh man, I didn't want to be a rapper. I just started rapping after I got out of jail. I just, my cousin or my brother knew this person, or my uncle owned the studio and they knew this one street guy. They were hustling back in the days, and they let me just come in and use the studio for free because they want me to keep me off the streets or whatever. And then next thing you know, they blow up. They become Little Baby, They become a Chief Keef, They become, some successful rapper making millions upon millions of dollars. Meanwhile, you have somebody that went to school, college educated, did all the quote unquote right things in life. You follow the traditional path. You were obedient in class, nice and respectful to women and all that. And you just get crapped on by life. Like, life doesn't care about none of that. And that's a brutal truth. Is like being a nice guy, you finish last, but you don't even get permission to even enter the race. This is why I feel like becoming more of the villain, meaning that just focusing on yourself and focusing on your own deeds and stop worrying about everybody else. Stop worrying about what everybody else is pretty much doing and focus on how to get yourself in a position of power and independence, so you don't have to go to that 9 to 5 anymore. So you don't got to be bothered with people around you who don't even want you, around. And some of your biggest enemies and some of your, biggest, people that don't want you to succeed, it comes from your family. A lot of times there's people in your family right now that can't stand you. They don't like you, but they're always thinking about you and talking about you and always trying to compare themselves to you. Even when you're like, they're having a one-sided competition with you. All you want to do is just live your life and mind your business, while these people are like silently watching you, seeing what you're doing, trying to twist your words and use it against you instead of just focusing on themselves and doing their own thing. They want to see what you're doing and then talk about you and compare themselves to you. It's just ridiculous. It's like, why do you have to have people like that in your life? But the best thing to do is cut them out of your life. You don't need that in your life, man. But you have no control in this world over how you look and who you're born to. Those are some of the most fundamental and essential things, if you really think about it. Your looks determine everything in this world. How many girls have we seen just walking down the street, going to the mall, or just going to you're going to work or something. You see a beautiful girl that literally takes your breath away. Like it's a sunny day. You see her hair, waving in the wind. She got some booty shorts on, or she got some nice jeans, or she wearing a nice summer dress. Oh, I love girls that wear those dresses and they got a nice behind, you know what I mean, and a cute smile, And like even when she walks past you, you smell her freaking perfume and it smells so exotic. It smells good. It's like, wow, this girl's clean. She takes care of herself, And then you think about that Chad, ramming her hard, you know what I mean? And just hitting it from the back and making that nanny smack. Meanwhile, you got your flashlight, you don't, you wank off to that, you bust, and then you're like, you feel empty inside. You're like, wow, you got a piece of plastic. Meanwhile, Chad got the real thing, and it's a brutal realization when you know that your whole life has just been a big lie. And people tell you, oh, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can do anything you want. And if you want that girl, you got to have a nice, you just got to have a nice heart, and you just got to, bring her flowers and chocolate and, open the door for her. And if you maybe meet her father, girls are not going to take you to meet their father nowadays, like, even the Chads and Tyrones, like a Chad and Tyrone doesn't want to meet the girl's father. He just want to hit it from the back and make that natty smack and and go out through the back, But when a girl, I guess really, really takes Chad seriously, he may meet the father maybe. And the father instinctively knows, like, yeah, this is a Chad, this is a Tyrone, And here's the brutal truth. Some of these guys, a father would probably want his daughter with a Chad or Tyrone than somebody that looks like us in our position. Because at the end of the day, that's his bloodline. At the end of the day, he wants his grandchildren to look good. And when you look like us, when you're rejected and ejected because of your looks and you're not attractive, no father is going to want you with his daughter because that's his bloodline. And it's not just him. The mother's not going to like you neither. If a cute girl ever gives you a chance, even to hold her grocery bags, the mom will be like, who's that? And the mom's going to tell her, turn him into a Better Bucks Cuts Deluxe, and take him for everything he has. I know guys in their 40s, man, because some of them email me and they tell me about, how they still live with their parents. I'm talking about people that are like 43, 44, 45 years old in their mid 40s, and they still live with their parents, and how they got to pay for sexual experiences and how their life was over with years ago, hell, before I was even born, right? And that saddens me. I'm an old man as well, but I'm not that old, right? I'm not to the point where I need a cane and gray hair and all that, but I've seen it pretty much all when it comes to women's behavior, And for you young guys listening, understand this. It's not about your personality. It's not about getting a better, good job and all that, because Jeremy Meeks didn't have a job at all. Jeremy Meeks was in prison. It's about your looks, because you can have all the money in the world, but if that girl's not physically attracted to you, it doesn't mean anything. Physical attraction is everything. It's like being physically attractive is like some type of cheat code in life. It's like some type of currency currently. And I think it's always been that way. Like, I'm trying to think, when's the last time that, being a guy who provided for his family and, just being a good guy, like, when's the last time that truly, really mattered to modern day females? This is why you see so many dysfunctional families. You see the girl going out with Pookie and Ray Ray, and Pookie don't have a job, Ray Ray don't have a job, but, to the girl, they look a certain way, and so she's sticking with it, Meanwhile, that nerdy guy with the glasses, Hi, Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea. Do you want to go on a date? No, I'm busy. No. Yeah, you know what I mean? Meanwhile, she's going on a, she's going on a rooster ride with Chad, and it's brutal, you know? But yeah, man, so just understand, man, that a lot of it is not your fault that you're in this position. It was just due to how you look like, plain and simple.